camera too. Number one. I've been thinking a long time about what I might do at Shapeshifters actually, and one idea that kept coming up was just something to project onto that might be malleable. And by the way, I'm not seeing it on the monitor yet over there. Is it just a delay?
Might be a delay. Technical difficulties. Yeah, we did.
I was thinking about ice and the way that I could work with that, and well, there I am. The way it might change over time, just sitting there, a melting bottle by itself, and then all the things I might start doing to it to make that happen a little more interestingly and quickly, and then also it's puddling up on the floor and it's some kind of bin or something like that, and I can be projecting onto that and having that reflected, and just kind of different ways that, you know, ice is such a beautiful substance, and yeah, that's kind of where it came from. Just kind of thinking about something that might work in your space there too.
Yeah. So what was the TV show that we were watching? Was it one TV show?
Yeah, it was all from Perry Mason episodes from the 60s. And that was, there's kind of a pattern that goes with those shows. Of course, Perry Mason never lost an episode, never lost a, well, I've got to turn this down. It's distracting me. He never lost a case, but the episode always ended right before the commercial with the person who really did the crime kind of breaking down into tears or just like realizing they were caught or whatever, kind of collapsing. And so that was part of the formula. And every episode had some kind of breakdown at the end. And then there'd be a commercial and they come back from break and ferry and the defendant who was wrongfully charged would be sitting around the office and telling a joke, kind of forgetting all about this person who's now going to go off and spend the rest of their time in jail or in damnation or eternity in hell or something like that. So I just thought I would focus on those moments when these people that are going to sort of soon be forgotten about are remembered in a way and kind of puzzling through their imminent demise or whatever. So,
yeah, that moment of transformation.
Yeah.
From one life to the next. There's a lot of very upset people in there.
Yeah. And it's kind of a good moment for a lot of those actors to kind of really show their stuff. I think that was kind of an interesting thing in the day too. So, and then it was sort of ironic if you think these people, if you're thinking in maybe the Christian sense, these people are all going to go to hell or something for the murder that they've committed. And here I am working with ICE, which is kind of a different sort of opposite of that, and kind of attacking with all these heat devices and things too. Sort of watching that kind of collapse and change the way that the image is looking as well too. So just a lot of room for experimentation and playfulness.
Yeah, you had a lot of torture devices in there.
Yeah, on torture devices. Yeah. And John Wynne, who was the composer of the music in there, he did a really great job with that, I think, and I was really happy with it. He actually composed it for kind of a shorter version I had shown him a couple of months ago, and the short version of it just actually worked so well, just as part of maybe the last half of the piece or something too. But when I showed him early versions of this, he was complaining about the sound of the hairdryer and the sound of the drill, and it was just really way too loud. And he was right, so I kind of played that down a little bit.
So the source was all from the Perry Mason episodes?
Yeah.
Was there more that he added into that?
Oh, the source of the music? No, he composed his own music for that. Yeah.
Okay, so none of it came from Perry Mason?
Well, some of the slowed down parts in the beginning when you hear someone in slow motion kind of breaking into tears, or there's a little bit of dramatic rise in the music that comes there. But about halfway into, about 9 minutes in, when John's music starts in there, that's really kind of the violins that kind of starts taking over. I'm really happy with the way that worked too. So.
And so the very beginning, you were shooting, looks like ocean scene? Yeah,
that was all shot up at Point Reyes, and there's a lot of ocean stuff and kind of birds coming in and out, and then kind of walking along in a sort of jerky way. And it just ends up being like this is sort of this foggy version of the world that these faces start coming out of. And I'm not sure I know exactly what that means, but I kind of like the fact that they're kind of integrated into this kind of landscape and this kind of mysterious kind of foggy space. And then they kind of take over in the middle part of the piece, and then toward the end it kind of goes back to another natural place, which is a little sunnier and kind of more redemptive or something like that.
Well, at one point, I don't know how you did it, but at one point the ice block with the two holes shifted just so you could see the eyes coming through, and that seemed to sort of like bring it into a new space from projected image to sort of like an integration of all the elements.
Right, it becomes a little mask for that person or whatever. So
yeah,
I kind of like when those kind of accidents happen. I was trying to make those things happen a little bit too. It's very unpredictable. And as I'm working with the ice, it's like falling apart and melting, so I never know exactly what's going to be on there.
Yeah.
And I also want to give credit to Christian Gainsley and Elizabeth Cohn, who Christian sort of orchestrated a lot of the technology, and Elizabeth was doing the shifts between the images and the cameras. We had 3 cameras going there too, so she did that very artfully, I think, just kind of focusing on sometimes on the screen. You can see what was happening with the ice on the screen, and then also back from the ice itself, you'd see the images on the ice as it was turning. And so I think that all came together very well because of them.
Like three dimensions in one plane.
Right, yeah. And as the ice is turning, you're getting kind of interesting distortions in the faces and things like that.
Yeah. But I guess that kind of what we were watching, you couldn't really see that if you were in the space with the material and the imagery. Like you could only really see that post-production.
You kind of see it, I think, but it might be a little far away, or I could have a camera pointing from the other side of that with the monitor showing what was on that one as well. So yeah, it would have been nice to have that work in a real space too, but that's not where we are right now, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Feel free to chime in. Okay, Carrie just chimed in. She said Scott has projected underwater as gas and solid. Has he tried liquid form?
Liquid form of water?
Yeah.
I have not tried that yet, but it's obviously a possibility.
Yeah, so you've done like variations of these in different like installations that I've seen. There seems to be a lot of like, it's all about interference. There's like the interference of the image itself. There's like the image coming into itself, and then there's projected onto like planks of wood within the wind, and then there's like the ice, and then the wood in the Timeless Motion show that we were in a couple of years ago. So this is like a ongoing
exploration.
Yeah, exploration.
Yeah. I really like the way, I mean, you saw it a lot in this piece with the kind of stripes happening on the screen, either horizontally or vertically. And it's sort of hard to see them in this particular piece because you're seeing so much interference with that image itself. But I'm really interested in the way that you can have two images on the screen at the same time, alternating each one, and you don't really know. It's kind of like this figured ground sort of thing. Normally there's a figure and then the background is the ground, but in this instance, they both become kind of this confusion of which is the figure, which is the ground, which one you're supposed to be looking at. Mm-hmm. And then you get these amazing accidents where two faces are sort of on the screen at the same time and kind of complementing each other with eyes and light and noses and mouths and things like that. So I really like that kind of thing happening, and I think this is probably going to turn into a single channel piece where people can look at that a little bit more closely as well. But yeah, I'm interested in how those kind of patterns that get created with all that get projected onto different kinds of objects. And you mentioned the one Timeless Motion where I had tree branches and wood and scraps of leaves and things like that. Just seeing how those kind of things interact with kind of natural elements and natural processes is really fascinating and kind of room for real exploration for me. I really enjoy working with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of mimics the old television scan lines.
Scan lines, yeah, that's true. low resolution television.
Yeah, which is something that you've mentioned, right? Something that.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that before, and it's also this idea that when I was projecting onto say tree branches and leaves and things like that, I was thinking maybe the early days of people watching campfires and the shadows that were getting projected onto the surrounding forest around them was kind of an early sort of cinema in a way too. You get to see these kind of, before there was any kind of cinema, hundreds or thousands of years ago, there was these kind of flickering shadows of light happening because of things happening on tree branches and other natural elements around.
Yeah, sort of like a Plato's cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions from the audience.
We have a lot of questions.
I think the title "Damnation," hell, hot and fiery. But how do you decide on cold and ice?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think so. How is the title "Damnation" kind of implies hell and fire? Yeah. I mean, I think I sort of talked about that already a little bit, which was that it's kind of this ironic opposite of that, and maybe ice is kind of a different kind of hell in a way too. People are sort of frozen. These faces are sort of frozen into this thing, and maybe I'm just attacking them with all these elements of heat that are kind of expunging them in some way through these various processes too. So I'm not sure I'd have a total answer for that, but it was fun to think about it and do it the way it looked too. So.
Let's see. Steve Polta. She says, I finished reading a novel called Ice by Anna Kavan this morning and really saw resonance with this piece. Obviously, this is something I had on my mind, but do you know that book?
I do not know, but I will look it up.
Let's see. What was your interest in the temporality of ice?
Temporality, I mean the intemporality or something?
Ephemeral.
The ephemeral nature of it?
Temporality. Temporality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a very beautiful kind of object if you can get it out of the freezer correctly, which I was doing, filling up water with these cookie sheets and leaving it overnight and pulling it out, and just the way the light refracts through it is beautiful in itself. And having my images kind of project through that and onto the screen was an interesting way of having them exhibited too. I was even thinking of the way that the beam of light coming out of the projector might eventually provide enough heat to melt the ice in a certain way too, and maybe you can put an image on there.
Did that happen? I was curious about that.
No, I mean, it was not. I didn't have them up there long enough for that to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some heat coming out of the projector that was affecting it, and maybe if you only had one image on there for half an hour or something, you might actually see it imprint onto that. So, yeah, the fact that it's sort of a temporary structure out there in the warmer world is kind of interesting. And maybe it's referencing in some way, climate change and stuff like that too. So I wasn't specifically addressing that. But there's a lot of stuff about nature going on in there, and there's ice that is melting, and so maybe we're all going through this sort of damnation ourselves right now. Hopefully, getting to a better place soon. But.
Yeah. Are you making a statement on old film actors being frozen in time by the documentation of film and TV? They don't age. That's how are we sort of frozen in time during the pandemic?
That's a very good interpretation that I hadn't thought of, so I like that a lot. I mean, we do kind of like to look back on things in the past as sort of frozen in time in a certain way. That's the way things were, even though they weren't really that way. They were just, that's the way we remember them, or that's the way they were represented. But, not necessarily. But that's a great statement about it. And we're all kind of stuck at home now trying to figure out things we can do with our appliances to make art out of it. Hair dryers and things like that.
Brian Konepsky says, hey, Scott, in addition to the beauty of the ice as it melted and refracted, I was also thinking about ways in which some of Laurie Anderson's early works where she used ice as a timepiece. Not really a question, more of a statement.
Yeah. I also recently saw Paul Koss. He has a piece where he takes ice, and there's a short video that's on the SFMOMO website right now, and he pulls it up to the sun coming through it, and it actually creates a beam of light that starts a fire down below. And so you see it starts smoking, and then he puts the ice on top of that once it bursts into flames. So,
yeah, I guess he's done several works with ice, because I think we had mentioned previously his most well-known piece, which is The Sound of Ice Melting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice is a thing right now.
What's that?
Ice is a thing right now.
Ice is the thing, yes. Let's see. It was amazing how beautiful and crystalline it was watching it from home, streamed on the TV. Hope to see more via streaming.
Great.
Yeah. Carrie says, reminded me a bit of a moment in the Twilight Zone episode Midnight Sun when a painting melts.
Oh, wow.
Gwendolyn here says, brings me back to my obsession with ephemerality. Want to talk about film and ephemerality, it being both alive and not at the same time. That's interesting.
That's great. Hi, Gwendolyn. I do like the idea of these images on the ice being the images themselves, and they are just sort of deteriorating as we're watching them, which, of course, a lot of images on film are doing right now. A little bit slower, but very ephemeral.
Yeah, let's see. Jody says, kind of looks like tempered glass, temperedality, temporary emperadorial.
Yeah, Jody's been working with ice as well, as you may know.
I didn't know.
She's freezing up flowers and other kind of plants and things like that.
Yeah.
And then watching them melt, she films them. So.
Yeah. Christian Gainsley asked, how long has Scott been working on this piece?
Christian, he should know. Well, it's been in my head for a while, but yeah, Christian was really helpful kind of with the technology and getting this whole thing going through. It had some really great suggestions. He and Elizabeth both had really good contributions to things that they thought were working as well too. So, but yeah, I haven't been working on it really that long. But the Perry Mason piece was something I had started maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, just kind of working with those kind of collapsing confessions or whatever you want to call them. But it never really amounted to anything. It was just something that I was playing with. And then when I started working with the ice, I thought back to that, and that seemed like the right thing. It seemed like a perfect place for it to kind of bring it out of the vault and put it out here again.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Rick had a comment. Let's see. Oh, Rick says, "Oh wow, couldn't find the chat. I was seeing a parable from melting ice. In other words, climate change, our collective damnation," which I guess we touched upon. Let's see. Wheeler here. Love the use of black and white and the repurposing of Perry Mason black and white all ice to perfection. Gwendolyn says hi. Love the use of the black and white images. Eric Theis says, was reminded of Mineko Grimmer's sound sculptures where stones are frozen into suspended pyramids, then drop and make sound over time. Anyway. Yeah, so.
Those are great comments.
Yeah. I hope I'm not missing out on anyone. Well, do you have anything else that you'd like to add? What are you working on next?
Well, I'm working on something for this the John Davis doing this Gravity Spell series. So I'm shooting a lot of 16mm film for that. And it was supposed to actually happen this fall as a live projector performance, but that got pushed off, as many things have. So I'm not sure when that's going to happen. Maybe John has more information about that. But yeah, I'm working on that and just kind of tooling around with other things and working a lot with the music and sound.
Awesome. Great. Well, oh, Steve Anker says, I like how beautiful the effects were from such funky and homegrown elements. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't have any more questions myself, but this has been really fun talking with you. And
yeah, thank you.
Thanks
I was going to mention one other thing about those Perry Mason episodes. I find it interesting that the person who ends up being, confessed or revealed at the end, it's not so much that they have murdered somebody; it's that they were hiding it, that they were lying about it. So that's kind of the real moral that shows in some way. So we've been through a lot of sort of lies in the last few years, 4 years or more. But so I think maybe we're breaking through that into some other era now. So maybe that's a kind of hopeful way of looking at what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's a morality play, huh?
Yeah.
See what can happen.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everyone.